Now, in a recent allegation, the EFCC has accused Mr. Saraki, former president of the Senate, of taking 12 billion naira from the treasury of Kwara State government while he was governor of the state between 2003 and 2011. In response to this and other allegations, the former Senate President, Bukola Saraki, said he is innocent of all of these allegations of fraud leveled against him by the EFCC. Our question goes thus: are members of the opposition being genuinely investigated, as the presidency has said, or is it a witch hunt, as Nigerians call it, but by the ruling administration? Now, joining me is Lolu Elegwe. He is a political analyst. Thank you for sticking back with us. So, Lolu, looking at this, I mean, you know, in Nigeria, when it comes to prosecutions, we come up with all kinds of things. There is witch hunting, the president is being biased, you know, he's not really fighting corruption. But looking at this issue, Saraki has said he's not afraid. He's ready. He's going to submit himself, whatever they want to do. But sincerely, there have been issues that have been raised over and over again, and he was cleared of these. Do you think the EFCC has a case?
Well, so it's not just one case that they have against him.
Many.
They have different ones. So one of the ones I read about, they're still talking about his time as Kwara State governor, I think from 2003 for 8 years. Now, as far as I'm aware, most of those allegations as to his time as Kwara State governor, most of them have either been dealt with or the case, a number of those cases have closed. There was a CCT issue with his asset declaration and all that stuff that has since been cleared. So I'm not quite sure what we're looking at his Kwara State
You said he took 12 billion.
Then, yeah, well, this is coming up again. So there are things about buying properties in Ikoyi and all those sorts of things. Now, does the EFCC have a case? Honestly, I don't know. But I think the EFCC, they box themselves into a corner sometimes. Because I'm a lawyer, right? So when I see certain things that they do, it just doesn't make sense to me. If you have all this evidence, why are you bringing them into the media?
You played into my second question, because I was going to ask. There have been more media trials by the EFCC,
yeah, and that's a problem.
More than the cases that are taken to court.
Exactly, and that's the problem, because you put all these things out there. We have X, Y, Z, he's guilty, he's done this, and then you get into court and it's different because the legal bars you have to scale are a lot higher than what you do in the media trial. That's the reality. Media trial, anything goes. Social media trial, anything goes. In a court of law, not anything goes. There are clear rules around evidence, around what you can present, about proof, witnesses, those sorts of things. So why not just sit down and build an airtight case and then take it to court and seek your convictions?
I think, talking about the EFCC, they have lawyers, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They have. I'm wondering who.
No, they do.
Who are the advisors? Because in almost the close of 2017 to 2018, there were at least 27 cases thrown out of court because of lack of evidence. And one would expect that the EFCC would learn and go back to the drawing board, but here we are again. And but then there's people who are of the school of thought that for the EFCC to keep coming back with these cases on Saraki means that they have something.
Not necessarily. Saraki has, I think he's stepped on a lot of toes. First of all,
you're playing the witch hunt card now.
No, I'm not saying no. Let me be clear on what I'm saying. So he stepped on a lot of toes, right? How he became Senate president, all those sorts of things. Then there's the issue again. This is probably a conspiracy theory because the EFCC chairman was actually never confirmed by the Senate. So there are those suspicions that these cases stem from whatever bad blood came out of those things. Again, that's not to say I believe or don't believe. I'm just saying these are the perceptions that are out there. Now, if he's actually innocent and believes he's not done anything wrong, then it really doesn't matter. They can prosecute him as much as they want. By the time he gets to court, and everything is laid there, all the evidence, or if they do have the evidence, everything is laid bare. A judge can make that determination. If they don't agree with it, they can appeal all the way to the Supreme Court.
Let's talk about the time lapse. I don't know, does the Senate President have immunity? No, it's just the President and governors.
The President, Vice President,
yes,
Governor, Deputy
exactly.
Governor. Yep.
So he's been governor donkey years ago.
Yep.
And while he was the Senate President, if there was, I mean, he sat there for 8 whole years. Yep. Why didn't they get something to, I mean, I know again, as a lawyer, you would tell me the court processes are long.
Well, yes, they are, but that's not what I was going to say. What I was going to say is, as Senate President, he has, even if he doesn't have immunity, he has certain powers. And there are things it would be unwise to go after him on while he has that power, because he's the person sitting in that chair. And whether we like it or not, yeah, that's exactly. The Senate President is the number 3 person in the country. So if you're going to go after him on certain things, you have to have an airtight case, and you know that whatever happens, he cannot beat this case. You can't go there with the media nonsense that EFCC does all the time. That position is too powerful to do something like that. So they had to, even though, yes, he probably didn't have immunity, but they had to wait until those powers were no longer with him, until those powers didn't reside in him anymore. Then they can now start taking these steps and say, okay, you have this case to answer, you have that case to answer.
Talking about cases to answer, you know, for a lot of Nigerians, we're looking at who are looking at the EFCC with a side eye. They're also saying, well, we have a Ganduje who we're waiting for him to leave office. Let's see what you're going to do about the Gandu dollar. You know, they gave it all kinds of names. And if the EFCC doesn't do so, of course, there will be, I mean, recently a judge just ruled on Mrs. Jonathan's
she forfeited
ill-gotten wealth because they were not able to prove. Now that, of course, one way or the other is laid bare. Inability to prove that you made this money legitimately, except she wants to keep appealing. But what do you think informs Nigerians always looking at the EFCC with a side eye when it comes to issues such as this? Because the APC would also tell you that, hey, we've put certain people who are in our camp in prison, and look at this person and that person, you know. Well,
I think the reason, and I can understand why Nigerians view it that way, because even at the start, even when the FCC started under Ribadu and President Obasanjo, there were accusations then that he was using the FCC to go after political enemies. And I had this argument with a friend who was saying the same. I said, yeah, maybe he's doing that, but the real question for me is, are these people actually dodgy? Are these people, do they actually have a case to answer? That's the more important question. If the PDP, if the EFCC under the PDP is going after APC people, the question is, are these APC people, do they have a case to answer? So if an APC president then comes and goes after PDP people, it's the same question. Do they have a case to answer? It's not. So anybody can witch hunt if they want to. You can't witch hunt an innocent person. At the end of the day, it will be proven eventually.
So you have to have some skeletons in your cupboard.
Exactly. So if you all have skeletons and the puppet master, as it were, starts to say, okay, because I'm here, go after these guys, or because it's now a different government, go after these guys. It doesn't change the fact that the people they're going after have questions to answer. And if it gets to court and they realize that, well, no, you don't have any questions to answer, then they're fine.
You made mention of the fact that the EFCC does a lot of media trials. If you were in a position to advise the EFCC, because like you have also said, if you have no sin, then of course nobody will come after you. But being that some people must have soiled their hands here and there, how should they go about this? This is a new dispensation, next level. What should be the next level for the EFCC in going after people who they think have some sort of questionable character?
Well, for me, it's simple, because the EFCC only has, the power of the EFCC is based on, well, there's the EFCC Act and all that, but their credibility, rather, not their power. Their credibility is based on them being able to recover funds and successfully prosecute people that have committed economic and financial crimes. Now, if you're going to go to the media with every single piece of evidence you have because you want to be able to create this narrative around this person. First of all, the media cannot, even including social media, as powerful as it is, cannot convict anybody. Only a court of law can do that. So
because
why not,
that's what rules the land.
So why not sit down, build that case? Because evidence, I keep saying evidence is not proof of anything. You might have all the evidence in the world, but it doesn't necessarily prove anything. So make sure your evidence proves that this person did these things. It can't be circumstantial, it has to be airtight. If it's not airtight, don't take it to court. But the problem is why I said they keep boxing themselves into a corner is sometimes maybe they figured out somewhere along the line that this evidence isn't enough of proof to get this person prosecuted for these things. But they've made so much noise in the media that they have to go ahead with it. They will look silly if they don't.
But at the end of the day, that makes a mess of the whole situation.
Precisely. And that's why you have so many of these cases being thrown out by judges. And in some cases, I think I read one or two where the judges actually sanctioned the EFCC lawyer. That why would you bring something like this to court? That lawyer is not stupid. But I'm guessing the reason he's gone that far is because...
It's to save face.
It's to save face because they've gone into the media and made all this noise. And then when it boils down to it, you actually don't have that much. A lot of what you have is probably circumstantial. It's not strong enough. There are all sorts of reasons. But if you sat down and did your homework in the first place, then you'd have your convictions. And if you don't have a case, you wouldn't even take it to court in the first place.
Well, unfortunately, I hope that the EFCC would learn. If not, we will keep going around in these circles and just be making a mess of ourselves. But thank you very much. Lulu Elegbe is a political analyst. Thank you very much for speaking with us. We'll take a short break and look at comments on the same issue. When we return, I'll be giving you my take. Well, it's time for my take. And you know me, I like to do it from my heart, so I don't want to read anything. So let's start by talking about security in this country. It seems to be escalating. It's going from bad to worse, apparently. A situation where our police officers seem to be in need of help. It looks like they need to be protected. And one of my guests did say today that how do we get people to protect us if they themselves are not well protected, not well kitted? And I told a story of a police officer who was transferred to a different city, a different state, all the way from the Middle Belt to resume duty. His money that was due him was not paid. He had nowhere to stay. He was literally living out of an abandoned vehicle in front of his police station, living like a homeless person. But a superior was pocketing that money. Now, of course, we know that the police has their excesses and all of the problems that they cause sometimes. But look, do we even ever stop to think about the underlying reasons as to why these things happen? What fuels, their attitude towards us and towards their job? Let's think about the welfare of the police officers for a change. Let's just look at them, with love in our hearts and wonder how they're being taken care of. And of course, I know that we can't do anything. We pay our taxes, don't we? But the people who are saddled with the responsibility of taking care of the welfare, and not just the police, our security personnel at large, the soldiers, the guys who are trying to protect us from Boko Haram and ISIS and all of those people. What are we doing for them, their family members? How do we take care of them? Do we just dump their families and kick them out of the barracks as soon as they're dead and gone? What is in place to keep these people doing their job well? We need to consider that. Yes, police stations have been attacked. Police officers have been killed. A female police officer who was pregnant was killed, shot dead. Let us start thinking in that direction to protect our security, even as much as, making sure that they live well. It's very important, and this goes to our leaders. It's not just us, the people. We need to, as we press on the government to check their excesses, we need to press on the government to also check their welfare status. And moving on to the issue of the EFCC, of course, it's their job to run after people who they feel or have evidence or tip-offs that, have somewhat embezzled government funds or monies at public offices. But what I've learned today is that if you do not have an airtight case, please avoid the media trials. Do your job and do it well. If we must fight corruption, let us fight corruption very well. Follow all the rules and regulations involved in fighting corruption, and let it not look like, as we call it, a witch hunt in Nigeria. A word they say is enough for the wise. I am Marianne Akon, and it's been Plus Politics. Do have a great day.